Welcome into the Ohio State Football Report. I am Tom Downey, and we are breaking down some winners and losers coming out of the spring game with the offense beating the defense 51-31 in a modified scoring setting. The points don't matter. It's like whose line is it anyway. But if you enjoyed seeing some actual Ohio State football, which we're not going to get for a little bit now, like the video right now. Let's begin with the winners, because why not start positive? And maybe one of the biggest winners of all was Julian Sayin, the quarterback who up and down maybe in the practices, and this is not a shot at any of the other quarterbacks, but I think Sayin earned the right to have the best spring game, to be called the guy who had the best spring game. He was 17 of 24, 175 yards, 1 TD. I know producer Chris and I were on the same page. Several of those incompletions weren't really his fault. Receiver fell down. There were some drops in there. He started hot as well. Maybe he's just a gamer. And he didn't have maybe the best spring practice. There were several days where it seemed like Kienholz was better, but I think Sayin's performance in the spring game, very impressive. Here's what Ryan Day had to say. I thought Julian, for the most part, early on was in rhythm and moved the team down the field for a couple of scores, which was good. Made some nice throws. There's certainly a lot to grow from. Now, even though I think Sayin had the best spring game, that doesn't mean that the other main quarterback in contention here, we'll talk about Tavian St. Clair later, but I think Logan George had a pretty good day as well. Didn't start very great. Had, stall-out drive, but did finish well. 12 of 18, 158 yards, 2 scores. The Sayin-led offense had some punch-ins with the running backs, which, drops the touchdown numbers, but I thought both guys acquitted themselves fairly well. Here's what Ryan Day had to say. Lincoln settled down for the first drive and made some nice throws. We just need to play football with these guys. We're young. We have a lot to work on, but I will say there was growth today. It's going to be one of these two guys. We'll talk about St. Clair later on. Pick your starting QB week 1 for the Ohio State Buckeyes. LK for Lincoln Kienholz or JS for Julian Sayin. LKJS. Go vote at the pinned comment of today's show. You know what that means by now. If the ad comes here on YouTube, great. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Next up on the winners, Mylan Graham. Look, I don't know how much he's really going to be able to play, but this was impressive. 4 catches, 104 yards, that's 26 yards per catch, and a touchdown, by the way. The OSU receiving corps is stacked, and Graham was a 5-star last year, number 33 overall, number 1 ranked player in the state of Indiana, heads east to Ohio, number 7 ranked wide receiver. With Emeka Egbuka gone, even though I think, Brandon Inniss and Carnell Tate and, of course, Jeremiah Smith are going to get the majority of the workload, there is room for Graham to at least get some chances. And then maybe have a massive season, by the way, in 2026 as well. Here's what Ryan Day had to say. His route running is excellent. Athleticism is excellent. Attention to detail is excellent. The biggest thing with Mylan has just been finishing the catch, which you saw him do today. That's been his emphasis. Finish contested catches. Catch it clean, put the ball away. He had a big run after the catch. The ball was loose. You could see it. So you're going to learn to tighten that up. He knows what he has to work on, but he has all the tools it takes to be the next great one. Now, you already have the next great one already on the team in Jeremiah Smith. But I think your young receivers overall impressed. You didn't give a bunch of workload and playing time to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Brandon Inniss. Those guys had a handful of catches, if that. In large part because, as Ryan Day kind of said, the older guys don't need those. They had played a lot of football dating back to last year. The guys who didn't play got their chance. Quincy Porter was 4 for 50. Phillip Bell was 3 for 30 in a TD. It's Ohio State. It's receivers. They're all stacked. But ideally, Mylan Graham, Porter, Bell make it challenging for the staff to not play them. It was also tight end Max Klare, who, again, more of a veteran, played a lot last year. 2 catches, 28 yards. That's 14 average, 1 touchdown. To an extent, OS is just kind of reaching the point where you just kind of need a game manager at QB because there's so much talent. Max Klare was great for Purdue last year. The offense for Purdue was not very good. Klare was. I think this is a very talented tight end who's going to contend to be a top 100 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. Here's what Ryan Day said on Klare. Quick to point out how quick Max gets down the field, how quick he is in and out of his breaks, his ball skills. We're going to work really hard this summer on some of the route running and how he does that. But he is going to be a weapon for us here in the fall. More winners and some losers to come, but today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off, and Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets or any ticket. I don't know if you're in Columbus. Might not work the best for NBA playoff tickets, but maybe you want to make the drive up to Cleveland or out to Indianapolis or whatever. Ohio State football tickets, NHL playoffs to get going not too distant future. NHL tickets are still available too. Get last-minute deals and save up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, everything else, etc. on Game Time. The Game Time guarantee is this. You find tickets in the same section and row for less. They'll credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, all guaranteed. Let's go to another winner. How about Logan George? The FCS Idaho transfer was very impressive. He had 3 sacks in the spring game. Now, of note, 2 of them were just touch because they weren't allowed to hit, Sayin and Kienholz. But that matters for a Buckeyes team that is going to need something out of this pass rush group. Something out of this front four that, as we'll get into, is shaky right now. Here's what Ryan Day said. I think we've got to figure out how we can best utilize Logan this fall. That's going to be a topic of conversation. What's the best fit? How does he fit? What's his role? He has strong hands. He's got physicality to him. And when he first came here in those 2 weeks into the playoffs or during the playoffs, our guys had a hard time blocking him. You could recognize he had heavy hands, and so we've seen some of that this spring. Whenever you add an FCS recruit, I go, okay, I'm just going to trust the coaching staff on this one. And early vibes are good there. So name a spring game winner for me. Any player or coach if you want to, I guess, in the comments of today's show. Let's stick on defense here. Payton Pierce, the linebacker, was consistently around the football in this particular game. He had a couple nice tackles, a couple TFLs in there, slipped out a screen pass. 4 tackles only in 2024 out of Texas originally. They've moved Hicks to edge. Could open up a bit of path to playing time, short-term, long-term for Pierce. Let's talk Bo Jackson. Not that one, although this one looked pretty good too. 13 carries, 88 yards. That's a 6.8 average, by the way, and 1 touchdown for Bo Jackson. TJ Donaldson didn't play a ton. James Peoples didn't play a lot either because those guys are coming off lots of playing time this past season. They didn't need to have those guys get a bunch of carries, get a bunch of touches, so Peoples and Donaldson only had a handful of touches. Bo Jackson sure impressed. He is in contention to be RB3, along with Sam Williams-Dixon, who had hit the portal and then kind of changed his mind, came back to Ohio State. He was involved heavily too. 11 carries, 64 yards, and caught a 24-yard touchdown pass as well. All of that's good, and it does kind of feel like the rich get richer here a little bit for Ohio State. And the next goal here on the Ohio State Football Report is 10,500 subscribers. We're about 368 away. Almost 369. Would have been nice. Anyway, hit that sub button. YouTube.com/GoBucks. I hate doing it because I don't like kickers. But the kicker, I think, is worth mentioning here. He was 4-4 on all of his kicks. He was apparently battling through some injury in the CFP last year. Hit all of his kicks inside of 50, the long of 43, 2X. You know what? Do that because it playoff time might come down to some kicking this year. The losers, Tavian St. Clair. And again, I'm not trying to body the kid. I kind of feel bad. The expectation should no longer be as a real contender to start. He's just not ready yet. And you saw it in the spring game. He started slowly. He was shaky to begin. And then kind of settled down, finished 11 of 15 for 116. Also threw 2 interceptions, one of which was to Fahim Delane, who maybe could make an impact at safety, by the way. He's just not ready for it yet. He's not there. Give him another year. He'll be QB3, and then we'll see how it looks out in 2026, 2027, etc. Name a spring game loser for me on today's show. If you want to be bold and put Nico Amaleave from Tennessee, get it? We'll probably talk about him at some point. You can drop that for me in the comments. OSU focus, but, shots aside. Drop that loser for me in the comments. this maybe is your best answer. And it's just the defensive line depth in general. And this isn't a huge surprise, but I would argue it's pretty clear from Ryan Day's comments that the play in the spring game, and the play in the spring, OSU has to go get help in the portal here. They just, too much knockback, or there was a lot of knockback, which you don't ever want up front. Help, kind of how your running backs ran for so many yards. It's just not there. There isn't enough up front right now. Ryan Day had this to say about adding defensive line help in the transfer portal. I think we've got to take a long, hard look at it. Maybe there will be somebody in there. Maybe there won't be. But defensive line depth, adding help up front, seems like a pretty big focal point. Finally, Aaron Scott. He was on the wrong end of several plays. He fell down a couple times. Just kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit. Very much behind everybody else, Lorenzo Styles, Matthews, etc. Not the best spring game, but when the receivers have big showings, that normally means a corner had a rough show.